Hello again, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of our 3-part series. It's a cooperative venture between University of Illinois Extension Master Gardeners. I'm one of them, I'm Rich, and the Crystal Lake Library. And so we've been spending some time now. This is the 3rd session on container gardening. As you recall, we talked about containers, we talked a little about soil, and we talked about basil in number 1 in 1st session. Last session we talked a little bit about flowers, mostly geraniums and petunias, but we talked about putting flowers in containers. And this time we're going to talk a little bit about vegetables, but mostly about some of the greens, and we're going to call this one lettuce. And so as you recall, we talked about using basically lettuce containers that you may have gotten from the store that you put some holes in the bottom so that they drained out. You then put that on a tray and you can grow this in a sunny window. And in fact, what we're going to grow here today can certainly be grown in a sunny window or out on a patio or a balcony. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to start some seeds today, some lettuce and some Bloomsdale spinach seeds. And then you can grow them, and you could either transplant them or you could put them in a bigger container if you wanted to. The greens tend to grow very, very nicely in containers. So what I've already done to sort of save a little bit of time here is I've already filled up a container with a germination mix. And you can buy a seed starting mix at most nurseries in small packages that would fill this up. You notice there's a little bit of perlite in here as well, which helps to, provide some space and also to hold on to some moisture. And then what we have for seeds today, I have one of my favorite lettuces of all times. This is a Forellenschuss, and it's kind of a multicolored. It comes in 2 varieties. It comes in more of a romaine style and also in a leaf style. And so what we're going to do is, one of the things I'll talk about for seeds is that you really like to see that they're fresh seed. Particularly lettuce seed does not want to be overheated. If you overheat it, you might have to cool it back down. I actually had that happen one time, put it in the refrigerator, but still lost some of the germination ability of that seed. And remember that with lettuce seed, it likes to see the light. It does not like to be fully covered and be very deep. So this is often just a seed that you could sprinkle up on the top surface of the planter, and I'm actually only going to do about half of it here, and I'm going to lightly press that down so that it still has some ability to get the little bit of red light that'll cause that to germinate a little better. The other set of seeds that I'm going to do here, I'm doing an organic, and both of these are organic, by the way. I'm going to do an organic Bloomsdale spinach. It's one of my favorite spinaches. There's probably a couple out there. I've grown a couple of them. But if you look, this is a little bit larger seed, and these actually do not need to be on the surface. I tend to overplant a little bit in case germination doesn't work out as good. But once I cover all the seed up, then I would go ahead and water this in, cover it with perhaps the first day with a plastic wrap. I would make sure I labeled which side was which. Although I'll tell you what, for Bloomsdale and for lettuce, the seedlings, the cotyledons that come out are a little bit different, and you'll understand when you see that. So they get watered. Once they start to appear, the cover can come off, and then they can be grown in a sunny window. Now what I have for you is I've already got some lettuce here that's already been growing in the container, and there's a little bit of kale in here as well. So you can grow kale, you can grow lettuce. I have an arugula here that I started. Ultimately, many of these are going to get transplanted out into the actual garden, but from this perspective, if you grew some in a container like this, you could have a container of lettuce, of kale, of arugula, and actually the 4th one that I would toss in there is to get some beet seeds. One of them that has a nice top. I use either Detroit Dark Red or Early Wonder, or a couple different varieties. And if you look at most of the salad mixes that are out there, they are lettuces, they are arugula, they are kales, and they are beet tops because they're very nutritious for you. So you could go ahead and start some beets in another tray. Now remember that the beet seed is really and truly a fruit. And so when you put one seed in, you could get 3 or 4 plants coming off of that same seed. It's going to look kind of weird. You planted 12 seeds and you've got 30 plants. But you're really only going to be interested in the tops, and so therefore it doesn't matter that they're a little bit crowded. You're not trying to grow the root and let that fill out. So we've got 3 or 4 things we can grow in these trays. Again, remember that if you're putting them on a windowsill inside the house, that you protect them or protect the sill itself by putting a tray beneath them. You need to keep the seeds moist at all times so they dry out. They are living material. Seeds are living. So therefore, don't let them dry out. And so in session number 3 now, we talked a little bit about some seeds, and we've talked about some of the greens that we can grow in our windowsill. Can also be grown in a container, or a regular round container that you normally would find. So over the 3 sessions, we've talked about containers, soils, we talked about some herbs, we talked about flowers, and now we talked about greens. We could always go on to talk about tomatoes and peppers and most other things. I'd probably stay away from the vining crops from containers, but you do need a bigger container and maybe even a trellis for some tomatoes. Peppers do not need that. They can grow by themselves. So I hope this has been helpful for you. We're glad that you have a chance to watch these 3. Basil, 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 flowers, 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 and this final one, lettuce, lettuce, lettuce. You have a great day.